Welcome back to the Vet S.O.S Podcast Network. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that Vet S.O.S Lifeline. We're here to help. Oh, and I got a great one for y'all. A blast from the past. This young lady right here, I have known her for at least, well, say, Meegan, about the last, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say 4 to 5 years. Yep.
And we met at a company where she teamed up with me to help veterans help in that transition space of trying to figure out how to utilize what they learned in the military to transition to what they're learning after the military. And we could use this information for if you're pivoting from one job to the next, this conversation is going to light your fire. It is going to light your fire because artificial intelligence is evolving. But my question to everybody that's listening in and that's viewing in, but what is the human intelligence doing? Is it evolving? Is it staying the same? Is it getting worse? The future does not need better machines nearly as it needs better humans. Artificial intelligence, as we know it as AI, and I'm not talking about obviously, I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence is changing everything. It's a game changer. How we work, how we learn, how we communicate, how we create, and how we lead. But what if the biggest question isn't what will AI become? What if the real question is what will we, the human, become? As machines become faster, will we become wiser? As technology becomes more intelligent, will we be more intentional? Today's guest believes that the future doesn't belong to artificial intelligence alone. It belongs to leaders. If you say that, are you a leader? Yes, you are a leader. If you're a leader yourself, you're a leader. It belongs to leaders who know how to unlock the human intelligence. My friend, my sister, my teammate, my human intelligence extraordinaire, Meegan Kriley-Mackay, is the author of Leadership in the Age of AI, Rebooting the Human Intelligence. Today, we're going to be talking about curiosity, critical thinking, leadership, emotional intelligence, and what y'all came to come in here and to jot down is that soft interrogation. We're going to talk about the 5 whys of SI. So write that down.
Yes, sir.
5 whys of SI, which is trademarked by Meegan, but she's going to explain what the 5 whys of SI is. It's part of innovation and why the most valuable skill of tomorrow might be the humanity we refuse to lose. So pull up a chair. Come sit on the stoop. It's time to get the scoop. M Square, what's going on today? Everybody know that's my call sign for Meegan, okay?
Yeah.
Her
Meegan
name is
McKay,
M Square. So, M Square. How we doing, Meegan? Long time no see. How we doing today?
Honored to be here, Kings, and I am so excited about this podcast and those who are going to be listening. And it is just amazing. Speaks to both of our hearts and both of our purpose. And this is just an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and sitting on the stoop to share the scoop of your book, of your knowledge, of your skills that you've gained along life and that you're willing to share it with others, with other humans, right? Because that's something that we're going to talk about today, the human connection.
Yep.
And when this human right here reached out to you, the other human, you said, hey, Kings, I'm going to send you a copy. The book just finished. Let me know what you think. I went through the first 3 pages. I said, hey, Meek, I need you to come sit on the stoop to talk about this because this right here is gold. And I love the colors, right? I love your dress. It's black and gold. The book is black and gold. So that's part of the human intelligence, part of the soft interrogation, and part of the 5 whys of SI.
Yep. You got it.
is putting that information out there so others can use it for their good. But before we start, I got a little scoop on Meegan of M Square. I know the audience, the listeners, and the viewers want to know, who is Meegan? What's the scoop on you, Meegan?
Absolutely. So there's many different perspectives and perceptions, but the reality is I am a human that is aware that evolving is a benefit and adaptability is a power in life. Long story very short, I was a transitioning person working with the military as a government employee and then married to a U.S. Air Force pilot. So I wore both sides of that transition in our life. Through my journey post 9/11, working for the Department of Defense, I had followed my dream that I had been thinking about since high school to become a spy. The question is any career field what you expect? Right? When you went into the military, is it exactly what you expected?
Not at
Probably not.
all.
So my journey pursuing work as a spy in the intelligence community landed me post 9/11 at the age of 32, right? A little later in life. There's a pre-story to all that in the book, but we'll stay on point. Is I was blessed through a series of opportunities that I pursued out in DC once I moved from Montana, where I grew up, to DC to pursue this dream career. I became a human intelligence specialist and certified interrogator by the Marines. That journey, training, and experience transitioned me into the human I am today and redefined my purpose, which is all about sharing everything I have learned and more to help others who are in that transitioning space, because I know exactly what it's like and how hard and difficult it is to see it through. And the last point, Kings, is besides my own personal, but married to a U.S. Air Force pilot and 4, transitions to different locations from D.C. to Hawaii, New Jersey to Oklahoma, Altus Air Force Base, and then transitioning to Lawton Fort Sill Army, where I got connected to the Kings teams down in Dallas. And that journey over a period of 15 years absolutely shifted what I truly believe my purpose was in not only sharing my knowledge, but writing a book, sharing the message, coaching, speaking, and spreading the word to help others become super intelligent in whatever field they pursue.
Wow. 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 And every time I hear that story, your story, I'm just in awe because you was an active duty supporter. You're a
Yes.
veteran supporter. You're a
Yep.
human supporter.
Yep.
And in this support role, I have personally seen with my own eyes and heard you with my own ears how you was helping multiple active duty military transition to veteran status to figure it out and to work through the process of. And I'm going to ask you to tell that story about the truck driver, right? Because it leads up into leadership in the age of AI. Because what I've seen now and what I've experienced is AI, yes, is here, but it's a tool.
That's
It's
right.
not going to replace the human. The human is still in the mix. How do you separate yourself from the robotic, you know, the robotic stuff that once you see one thing that's AI, you could kind of pull it out and see the other stuff, right? Like, because your eyes are trained on that. And you talked
Absolutely.
about it in the book. Your book is, what is the human heart trained on? That connection,
Yep.
that communication, that
Mhm.
seeing what part fits. Yes, I see what you look like on paper, but I need to have a conversation with you in person to see if you're a good blend with this team, or maybe I need to put you on that team, or maybe I need to reach out to my network because you will be a perfect fit here. So for that, on behalf of everybody that you came across that since I've known you and that's out there doing great things in the technology space and beyond, I'm saying thank you on behalf of them because they still reach out to me. It's like, wow, I would have never expect of me being here
Oh, yeah.
without meeting you and the team
Yep, I agree.
there. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So I'll share with you kind of like the point where everything shifted into where I am now, which was back in about 2013 to 15, and it pivoted my whole world. And this is, of course, pre-COVID. We had landed at Altus Air Force Base in 2009, and by 2013, right, it was all of a sudden Armed Force Reduction Act, sequestrian, post 9/11, country was trillions of dollars in debt. Everybody knew this, right? And we're talking the economics and the taxpayers and everybody contributing to post 9/11 debt and continued spending. And it was long overdue for Congress to say stop. And this is what happened. Congress said, Department of Defense, you have 5 years, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guards, to make these cuts. Get it done. Well, the Air Force, different culture than the Navy, looked at each other and said, wouldn't we look great if we did it in 2 years? And in 2 years, from 2013 to 15, they cut over 70,000 U.S. Air Force active duty pilots from the workforce, pre-retirement. That was us. That was my husband. That reality, and I had given up my 6-figure government employee job in D.C. to be a military spouse, caregiver, and mom, which is not paid for.
Right.
So both of us, master's degrees, living high, end up in small town, Altus, Oklahoma, no job. This is what triggered everything that started the 5 whys of soft interrogation and this book about human intelligence. For 11 months, my former spouse was failing the interview segment with high-level commercial airlines, and we needed to find a way. I knew why he was failing those interviews. He had all the hard technical skills on his resume, an engineer, C-17 pilot with a master's degree, and every check in the box complete and qualified to do the job. That was not the problem. That's what got him the interview. But the reality is when he got to the interview, done via Zoom, he didn't get the job. After his 3rd failed interview and a little come to Jesus because tensions were high, I sat down and I said, here's the deal. You have the hard technical skills to do the job. You're qualified, but you absolutely lack the soft skills called people skills. It's no longer about rank. It's no longer about uniform. It's no longer about attitude. They know you have the skills. The question's, who are you as a person? And can you work well with a team? And do you fit our culture? Which the reality today, Kings, is humanity has still not figured that code out. And they push it off because they're afraid of dealing with it because it's too much. But the truth is, I've cracked the code. And the reality is every human has a program. And if you can start to develop skills on both sides of that matrix, you can achieve any dream you've ever thought. And I started a 1-hour workshop after we landed him the job with Delta Airlines, after some coaching. And I started realizing we weren't alone, and this came from my heart. C-17s and Air Force Base at Altus was hit hard by the layoffs. And I said, I can do something to help. So I started my nonprofit, the Skills for Life Foundation, and what began as a 1-hour workshop teaching them how to give a 60-second pitch. Not just the words, but the tone, the language, the script, the attitude, the humor, the body language, the verbal communications, the nonverbal communications, and how they can absolutely sell themselves. That 1-hour workshop in a period of 4 years became a 5-day certified Department of Labor and Department of Defense Career Skills Program certified workshop series. And that's what led me to you. That was the beginning
Yes.
of this journey. It was teaching people how to take off what the world expected them to be or who they were programmed to be in that culture or mindset and start to take off the uniform, be vulnerable, and identify who they wanted to be.
Yes. And that's when I sat in as your co-pilot. See, y'all, I'm tying all this stuff together, right? I sat in as your co-pilot when
Yes.
you was giving your workshop and you talked about this same thing. You talked about the 60-second pitch. You talked about the LinkedIn presence. You talked about salary negotiation. You talked about resumes, targeted resumes. You talked about a lot of, and you talked about the piece that tied it all together is that human intelligence, the human part.
That's
And
right.
you shared the story with the class, and you shared the story about the truck driver. Don't worry, everybody. I'm going somewhere with this because we're going to touch on the book, but this is all leading up for the ones who just popping in. We're sitting down on the stoop. We're getting the scoop with Meegan Kriley-Mackay, aka also known as I call her M Squared, the author of Leadership in the Age of AI. We're talking about how to utilize tools and put the human element first.
Absolutely.
Right? This is where you pulled up the seat, you're sitting on the stoop, you're getting this information, it's hot off the press. Hot off the press, and we're sitting down with Meegan, and she's going to share about that truck driver that you said that came in your class that you was teaching at the base.
Yep. Fort Sill, Army Base. Yes, sir.
Yes, please share that story because it's going to get into how we're going to transition to the book. Why you say, you know what? I need to put this in the book because I see it's evolving. Now we have AI, but I have to talk about the core, the baseline. And I believe since I've known you, that has been the core, the baseline. When that truck driver said, I'm just a truck driver. And then you stopped the press. You stood up as like a truck driver, and I pass it back over to you. So when that situation happened and that person go, I'm just a truck driver. What
Yes.
can I do outside the military? I'm just a truck driver.
Absolutely. So, I remember it like it was yesterday. And we had about 50 people in the class. This is when the workshops started becoming 5-day certified workshops. And we were getting 50 from officers down to enlisted, all transitioning out during the, sequestrian, post-sequestrian with the U.S. government. And a little late, class was about ready to start. I'm up front, lights are on, slide decks up, everybody's sitting. And this one soldier, Army, comes in and he's angry. He's mad. And it's obvious to me, based on nonverbal expressions, micro expressions, his facial, his body language, that probably diagnosed PTSD. Maybe it wasn't on his medications, but there was absolutely some trauma. And so I immediately looked around for my security and I'm like, are we secure? Do you have my back here? Because you never know. And I work in de-escalation. That is my forte, right? From high level de-escalation to full de-escalation. Escalation to de-escalation, thank you. And long story to the point, he said there's no seats. And there was a seat in the second row up by me. And I immediately welcomed him in, made sure to look around that somebody had my back. And I said, please come up. There's a seat right here in front. And begrudgingly, he came up and sat down, making a lot of noise and just absolutely distracted and broke the tempo of the course. As I start to do the basic introduction of what's expected and what this course is going to be about, I say it's about taking your present skill sets and turning it into a career, if that's what you choose once you transition out. That is what we're going to work on. And he immediately yelled out loud enough for the entire 50 people to hear, I'm just a beeping truck driver. Yeah, he swore a little bit. That's Army style, but I won't swear today. He said, I'm just an effing truck driver. And I looked around and I said, you know what? I see you and I hear you. And I immediately shifted my tempo and I pointed to the back, turn the lights up, turn the slides off. We're going to take a pause. And as the lights go up and the slides go down and everybody's like, what's going on? I slowly, non-threateningly, compassionately, and authentically approach. And I'm about 4 feet from him instead of about 10 feet. And loud enough for everybody I see, I said, "What kind of truck do you drive?" And he started describing that truck. Now, I don't
Yes.
speak truck, so I'm not going to try and tell that his version. But he started telling me all about this truck, which was a semi-truck, CDL required to drive, and different licenses and training with, I think, 8 tires on the thing. Each tire the size of about 4 feet in diameter. As he started to drive this truck, owned by the U.S. Army, and he talked for about 2 minutes describing the truck. I said to him, "What did you do in this truck?" "Oh, we traveled in this truck in Afghanistan, and this is where we went, and this is what we did, and we helped, the teams working with the IEDs and da-da-da, and the special forces." And he couldn't be quiet. He kept talking. And what's so wonderful is that about another 3 minutes, I said, "You need a clearance to drive this truck?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am." And I said, "What level?" And he goes, "Top secret." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Tell me what you can. Is it the technology? Is it da-da?" And he started sharing what was appropriate that he could. And as he continued to talk, the officers and the enlisted around the room started cheering him on. "Don't forget this, and that truck did that, and you're capable of
Mm-hmm.
doing this, and imagine what it's that." And they kept cheering him on and encouraging him to keep telling the story. And as he kept listening, I said, "Now, question, what is the value of that truck?" And he said,
Mm.
and he looked up, reflected in his mind, intelligence, in his amygdala, and he said, "Oh, I think it's $11 million, da-da-da-da-da. The technology is worth this $1 million, and the tires and the equipment, da-da-da-da-da, and this is $1 million." And I said, "Okay. And what do you haul in that truck?" And he started listing, everything from toilet paper to sonar to weapons to military grade to, ammunition. And I said, "What is the highest dollar amount you could haul in that truck?" And he sat for a couple seconds thinking about it, doing the math. And then he said, "Oh, I think it was like $13 million, da-da-da." And then all of a sudden, that's where I say, wait for it. And I went silent. And so did he. The room was completely silent. And I held that silence for about 20 seconds, what can seem very long. And then I looked around the room and I leaned closer to him and I said, "You write down everything you just told me on a what's called resume, and you won't be driving a effing truck. You will be managing a fleet of Ryder trucks or Volvo trucks, making 6 figures of
Yes.
incomes at the age of 24 years old."
Yes.
I got an ovation standing from all those in the class. He started crying, and he was the first to show up and the last to leave. And about 6 months later, if I remember correctly, I got the email. I got the effing job.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was the moment where I knew we had purpose to help them change their lives in the way they think about where they've been and the skills they've had and the work they've done.
Wow.
Thanks for letting me share that, Kings.
No, you're welcome because that's where this book was starting to be birthed, right? It was being
That's right.
written in motion
Yes.
because you
Yes.
seen from him plus the 49 other people made 50 and then every other transition person that you came across in your journey to probably spoke to somebody today
Yes.
in that transition space. But the core still stood at the human element. Because I
Always.
remember when you said that, "Hey, Kings, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to put it in a book because this information hasn't been widely spread."
Nope.
And that's where we come to this right here. And what I love to ask the authors, what made you label this book, Leadership in the Age of AI, with the hand, with the brain, with the color scheme? Because I said the color scheme matched the dress, right? With the color scheme. Because I love to, and I don't know if you heard it before, but if you haven't, if somebody's new coming in, we're talking to Meegan, the author of Leadership in the Age of AI, M Square. And she said, "I'm going to put this in a book. I'm going to write a book. Hey, Kings, I'm going to do a book." Knock it out, Meegan, because it needs to be out there because it is so much, You know, when you hear a lot of noise, you really don't hear any noise. Like it's just so much,
Yep.
it cancels each other out. But now we have it in a book because on the top it says rebooting the human intelligence. And I like to share when I walk through an airport, I will stop at this and pick it up, right? Because I see the brain, I see the color scheme, I seen the hand like cupping the brain, and that's a human intelligence. I said, man, I haven't heard that word choice before. That's interesting.
Yes.
So, what's the scoop on coming up with the cover of this book? I love to know the scoop on that.
Absolutely. So over a decade of me doing these live, interactive, role play, scenario based transition training focused on the people skills and human intelligence, people started to say, Meegan, all your stories, all your experience, it's part of the workshop. It's not a script. It's like
Yes.
it's all interactive. And then I, more importantly, get them to come up and they do it because it's not about listening only. It's about doing. You know, one of my favorite movies, and I talk about this in the book, is Tom Cruise's most recent, Top Gun. It's not
Yes.
about thinking, which is what we all do. We overthink. It's about actually trying it because the reality is you will not know until you try. And there's no such thing as failure because every time you're learning what not to do, which is human intelligence. You're expanding your knowledge base and reference base to shift it. So as we started working through this and people say, Meegan, what do you do? It finally realized that I am a leader teaching other leaders. But the concept of leadership has evolved and continues to evolve in today's workforce, which is a problem with 5, now 6 generations and how leadership styles are determined. That didn't exist 10 years ago. It's
Right.
either, back in my day, either pretty much you're told what to do
Yeah.
or you're more like a coach and you
Right.
help a team, right? It was like leadership was telling what to do. Well, that's also military. And I realized as an interrogator, it doesn't work. Raise your hand, those in the audience listening. How many of you actually like to be told what to do? Anyone? Anyone? I don't know, but even since we're 2 years old, nobody likes to be told what to do. So the question is, why do we do it? And that started coming out. And I said, what if we started changing leadership in the age of AI? Because truthfully, Kings, that title came because those 2 words, leadership, AI, are top of search engine optimization in our digital Internet of Things. So it was obvious those 2 words had to be the title, right? How are people going to find me? Everybody's looking for leadership, even though it's defined differently, and everybody's inquiring about AI. So it was like, there was no question from all my mentors and editors, your title has to be front and center. The subtitle, Rebooting Human Intelligence, is what the book is about. But the problem is nobody's heard of human intelligence. And until you start to Google it, there is no clear definition, and it is constantly evolving. What is human intelligence? And I talk about it in the book. And in book 2, which is coming out in 2027, Rebooting Human Intelligence, we're going to talk about where it started, which was IQ, but it's now EQ, SQ, AQ, XQ, and more. And my whole mission is at what point, full circle, as current and future leaders, all generations included, how are you going to constantly ask and question to expand your own abilities and intelligences so that we can truly lead humanity in the age of AI moving forward?
And the age of AI moving forward, it's like the new landscape, right? Like it's like you get to because I'm here in Texas, right? So there's a lot of places that's building out
Oh,
new
big
housing
time.
areas, new shopping mall areas.
Oh, yeah.
It's changing, right? When I came here, it was a lot of farmland. Now it's less farmland and more structures, right? And that
Yeah.
is the way I see how AI is evolving, right? AI is changing everything. What must
Absolutely.
leaders understand first? What's the scoop on that? What's your thought process behind that?
Absolutely. So AI, and I am not a coder, and I am learning myself because AI is evolving so quickly, and even the programs that we were using 2 weeks ago, some of them are becoming obsolete while other ones are being launched. It is a constantly changing industry right now. It's really the awareness piece that AI is something humans have created. So let's go to the source, right? Humans created it. And Kings, you and I have talked about this in the past. The people that are coding it, that are programming it, are teaching it up until probably the last 12 to 18 months are of a certain demographic, which has a program and a culture and a mindset and a language. It does not represent all of humanity like every human does. Humans are much more complicated than that, and it is not that simple. As a result, there are biases, there are expectations, and there are assumptions being made. And we know what assume stands for. But how
Educate
come
us.
we don't
Yeah.
practice it?
Right.
Right. And so the reality is being aware of what is AI and what are the tools and digging in and experimenting. Whether it's Copilot, whether it's ChatGPT, whether all of the different forms that are out there, depending upon your career industry, or even me writing this book. Halfway through our 4th manuscript, and there were 8 manuscripts that we edited before we published, by the way. It's a work in progress, and it's never perfect. At what point do you just say, let's launch and start the next version? AI was part of my journey because, of course, if the book's titled Leadership in AI, I better experiment and get to know what it is.
Right.
Here's the reality. Humans who are not in that industry yet fear the unknown, which is true of all things in life. We fear what we don't know and we assume the worst. It is our design, it is our instinct, it is our mammal code. Stop and take a breath, everybody, because here's truth. Is it going to kill you? If it's not going to kill you today or possibly tomorrow, then go towards it. We have to learn to get out of our comfort zones, go towards what we fear, and try. Because just like riding a bike, just like standing up on a stage for the first time, everybody's biggest fear is public speaking. You're afraid because your instinct says it makes you vulnerable and you don't know the results and you feel threatened. That's called a fear-based mindset, which is how the world has been run since it was created by humans. We have to overcome the fear-based mindset and realize, take a breath. Am I going to die? And if not, test your boundaries, get out of your comfort zone and dabble. And most importantly, stop assuming that the technology we've created in AI is going to replace us when the reality and truth is that artificial intelligence logarithms are not human intelligence.
Right.
2 totally different codes, 2 totally different programs, and we have not yet invested in better understanding the human code, the human program, which is what I'm on a mission to do, and say we need to reinvest in human intelligence. And I just demonstrate how that can begin through the 5 whys, so that human intelligence of more diverse thinking, experience, skills, background, cultures, and mindsets. Notice I didn't say anything about what we see. It's within, can start to contribute to the whole, which will level the codes out to hopefully do good for humanity, not just bad.
Wow. And that's huge. You said do good and not for bad. Cause I know I had people reaching out to me, since I was in the tech space and, in the transition space and doing this podcast, people like, hey, do you think AI will replace human? Everybody's like, oh, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Like, I think they're asking the wrong question.
They are, because the reality is to assume that artificial intelligence will replace human intelligence assumes it's the same level of intelligence. And the reality is, it is not.
So what's the scoop on this one right here? What should leaders be asking instead?
So, in my experience so far, as a consultant, an executive coach with city and state government leaders, corporate executives worldwide, and keynote speaking that I do nationally and internationally, soon to be in December, it's not what have I done wrong or what AI should we use. They're listening to the world out there, and they're eating. Shall we say, when you fish, they're grabbing the bait. They're grabbing the bait. You need to stop and realize, take a breath, which is what I do in the work I do, is bring in your whole team, not just your executives, a representative from every division, every tier within your workforce, from the lowest to the highest and in between. And once you bring them around a table and start to ask a series of questions, open-ended questions, not yes or no, black and white.
Yes.
You will start to receive inputs that you can record as data points, thanks to AI, that will give you ideas, concepts, and perceptions and opinions, possibly, that you never thought of before. Because not one human sees things or hears things or feels things the same as you. Once you start that conversation, you can start to identify patterns that are connected and problems that can be solved. In order to do that, however, the first step every leadership team needs to do is invest in their own leveling up of human intelligence, which starts, as you know, Kings, when you look in the mirror and go through training in today's world focused on emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because you can never, and this is Interrogator Meegan speaking, trained by the Marines at Quantico, living in a jail cell for 10 weeks, been there, done that. Yeah, I broke. Oh yeah, that's part of the story. Is reflecting on the fact that you're not perfect and you don't know everything, no matter what age, stage, or pay scale you are. And when you look in the mirror about being honest, what can you do better? And being open to sharing that vulnerably, which is your superpower, which is the new code, not hiding it like the old school. But your superpower as a leader is saying, I only know what I know, and I can't control anyone or anything, and something's got to change. My leadership style of telling people what to do is what I was taught, but it's no longer working. Instead, what I'd like to do is start to ask, which may take more time and may seem inefficient at first. But once you give people of all demographics within your workforce an option to have their voice heard and them to be seen inside out, then you will start to realize the genius features, the intelligence truly within each of these human beings, whether they have a degree, whether they have 30 years of experience, or they live on a certain part of town. There is genius and intelligence all around us, and I believe in my heart and soul, Kings, and we've talked about this, that every human is born for a reason. The journey of life is figuring that reason and purpose out. And let me share this too. When people transition out of the military, you're not leaving a profession. It's about finding a purpose. And I want people to think back, what was your purpose joining the military? Most would say it's about being part of something bigger to help the world and make the world a better place, right? Let alone pay and benefits and reality. Well, what I want to challenge people that are in this transition or out and either helping others or themselves is, although the uniform comes off, you're still a leader. Start thinking about where you would thrive. And if you could create a space where you could take all the skills and what you're wonderful at, because everybody's got something in them, and really share it with others, which is what you and I are in the process of identifying.
Yeah.
Thanks
And
for asking.
that's huge because when I was going and reading through the book and seeing key parts in there, we're like, I know that part. I was there. I seen that part. I witnessed it with my own eyes. And when you put in the first part, we're still in the landscape. So we're still building.
That's right.
We're taking a journey through Meegan's book. If you just now tuning in, if you pulling up your chair, you sitting on the stoop, you getting to school, we're talking to the author, Meegan Kriley-Mackay, on the leadership in the age of AI. We're in the landscape, the AI landscape portion of the book, and we're just building this foundation so you can understand the magnitude that this book will have for you for the next 10, 20, 30 years, because this is, and Meegan said it in her book, this is a memoir, is a manuscript, it's all these things, right? She put it in the book, but I'm not going to give too much away because you have to go get it and read it for yourself and see how it aligns with your journey.
That's right.
What excites you most about AI and what keeps you awake at night, Meegan? What's the scoop on that? Because we're still talking about the AI landscape, right? Because you even said in your book, said, I had to figure it out. I had to utilize AI. If I'm going to write about it, I'm going to have to see what this is all about.
Yep.
So what's the scoop on
So
that? What keeps you up at night? Good and bad.
absolutely. So as I mentioned, we are who we are and we only know what we know. So I'm a Gen Xer, right? I'm in my 50s, so that matters. That was the time and place that I grew up with baby boomer parents and the golden age. And now, as I was leading these, millennials and Gen Zers and everybody into the workforce, and now I work in that space with all 6 and different angles and perspectives of it.
Right.
What I started to realize, and I've kind of known this because, as I mentioned in the dedication of my book, my parents were both academics. So I grew up in an academic setting. My father had a PhD, mom had an MBA. That even as I went through life, it's all about adapting and looking around you and saying, where's the world going? And where do I find my path? Well, I don't think anybody has taught that. That is what all humans should be doing. Sometimes it's not an option. They just follow directions because that's what they were told what to do, and they were discouraged to think freely or let alone use their voice. So that's kind of how it all pivoted. But really, as we're kind of moving into where this meant as far as the book and how I started to structure that, Kings, the essence really came from the fact that life is a journey. And if we aren't embracing what is coming, you will be left behind. So as AI has been coming for a long time, I mean, I was in 8th grade when Apple IIe computers showed up in the classroom. So I've had a computer in front of me my whole life, right? But it wasn't as evolved as it is now. And finally, after version 4 of the book, and I brought an editor in, I'll be brutally honest, and this helped me expand my level basis. There's a right brain and a left brain. And I'm a wannabe neuroscientist, so I'm learning, but I'm not licensed or I don't have a PhD. But everything I've learned through life, through crisis response training, through interrogation training, through human intelligence certified training, through my own trauma and plans, is that there are different sides of our brain, right brain, left brain, that absolutely are easier for us to use than others. And everybody's different. So I am a humanter. I connect, I speak, I read body language. I can assess energy and feel if somebody's toxic, or it's just my superpower. And it developed from a very early age, and it's my power. My weakness, because everybody's got a weakness, strengths and weaknesses, is that I've learned to write. I have a master's degree from Johns Hopkins, so I had to write and read and do all this stuff. But I hate writing, and I'm not good at it. And I was struggling, right? Because I talk different than I was writing. I was writing academically, like a dissertation, and I'm like, this comes off so bad and so dry and so academic. And I said, this isn't it. So then I started to use AI, voice record. And I'm like, today's chapter is this. And I just started talking. And it would record my words. And I'm like, oh, what a gift. This is awesome, right? So that was really versions 4 and 5. I started taking the draft of the book that I had already cranked out, and I started talking through it, which changed the tone, the narrative, the stories, the humor. Meegan came out of it because it's different sides of my intelligence. It's different sides of my program. And so as I started to work those two together and marinate it and said, okay, this looks great, and then I'd chop it and I'd go in, then I had an editor come in and we put it through AI again. And this is what I learned. And I want to give a big shout out to Jason, our dear friend, right, who worked with us, who I believe is still in Lawton, Oklahoma. He's amazing. He and I worked together on the team we were with, and he said, Meegan, you got to get into AI, and this is where you got to start. And I said, okay, fine. He pushed me. And I said, you're right. And once I got into ChatGPT and Copilot and I started testing the waters, and I'd say, it's all about the prompts. And I started to learn that I had to get really specific, really clear, and each prompt got more defined, just like a question in an interview, just like a
Yes.
resume, keywords. Hello. My brain lit up, and I'm like, I know how to do this. And so once I used everything I had taught and turned it into prompts, which is what AI is, how we speak to it, and the language and the vocabulary, and literally the details, the more details and more specifics you give it, and then I say, and add that to this version, paragraph 3, but condense it down to 500 words, and then you hit enter, and all of a sudden, in like 10 seconds, it's
Yeah.
perfect, and I'm like, oh my God, it's teaching me how to write.
Right.
And so
Yes.
I embraced it, and now I use it every single day in some way, shape, or form, and I'm here to tell you, I'm a better writer now because of it. My first
Mm,
drafts coming in for the second book are at a totally different level thanks to AI. It not
yeah.
only is a tool to use in many different forms from you name it, especially remedial taskings and organizing things and, anything in the matrix, as we call it.
Right.
It really helped me evolve as an author and a speaker. And my talks, I always throw it in and say, give me some factual data based on 2022, da da da.
Mm,
And it pulls the stuff that truthfully would have taken me hours, if not days, to do without it. And that's why
yeah.
it's such a big deal. Once you know how to play with it and say, nope, that's not what I want, and get more specific and tailor it to what you need to hopefully do right and do better, all of a sudden this tool is absolutely an amazing tool we'll be using for all eternity.
Right. And that is what I got real familiar with and good at on behest of where I was at, right, with Divergent Carry, the present CEO Siobhan Akaraju.
Yep.
He said, let me show you the power of
Oh, it's
AI.
amazing.
Like and I was he's my mentor, right? Like anything,
Yes. Amazing.
he has a
Siobhan's
Microsoft
amazing.
background,
Yep.
very knowledgeable,
Genius.
and he
Yep.
showed me, he's like, look, we can streamline a lot of stuff and cut out redundancy, but make it smoother to where we're still like a duck smooth on top. But while we're taking care of other stuff, we can let the automation take care of the redundancy. And
That's
at
right.
first I was hesitant, right? I was like, oh, well, it's not. And then, but when he showed me, like we took a deep dive, I like, wow, I didn't know it was, I just thought it was a couple of prompts, like you said, a couple of prompts. But this is where your book comes into play as well, and part 2 of it, right, the power of better questions, right,
Yes.
and this is where I see that you put it in, you trademark it, right, the 5 whys of SI, right, curiosity, critical thinking, and listening, because you mentioned
Yes.
that earlier in our conversation. So
Absolutely.
now we're getting down to the 5 whys of SI, trademarked by M Square, Meegan Kriley-Mackay. And I want to know, and I know the audience, they're on the edge of their seat right now, Meegan, right? Because they want to know, what are you talking about, Kings? The 5 whys of
They're ready for the
SI.
interrogation
They,
piece. That's
yeah, they're
right.
ready for it. They've been salivating for this part right here. So what's the scoop on what made you come up with that acronym, right? What's the scoop on that? 5 whys of SI.
Absolutely. Well, as I've stated before, I only know what I know, but I've been learning along the way. And what started off in interrogation training, which most of it is not classified, and
Mm,
I don't go into what is, but the essence is we learn different approaches to conversation and communication styles.
mhm,
That's what interrogation, INTER, Latin, between, means.
mhm.
What's in the movies? Torture, manipulation, control, and coercion. That's all movies. So,
Right,
an occasional bad guy, and they've been held accountable, but that's not what we're trained to do. Okay. That's
right.
not what they're trained. It's the perception because of Hollywood, but
Mhm,
that's not the reality. That's the secret everybody needs to know. It's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. And it
mhm.
starts with communication. If you look up the definition, Webster or Wikipedia, is communicating. It's one way. And most people think, well, I'm a great communicator. Yeah, but are you asking questions or listening?
Mm,
Communication's one way. Conversation, if you break down the phonics of it in the Latin, Conversation is two-way, which is what you and I are doing.
Right.
But interrogation, especially what's called soft interrogation, which is not tough guy, bad cop attitude, fear-based, which is an approach and sometimes work, especially in law enforcement and crisis, right? Soft interrogation is three things, and then I'll go straight into the 5 whys. The three things, which I talk about at length, is number 1, empathy, kindness, and compassion. You as a human have to remove everything emotionally from what's happening in your life and the world. And when you are in that moment with this individual that you are getting information and seeking information from, right, or trying to support or help, even in interrogation from dark places and evil places around the world, or in the workforce, or your boss, or a customer, it starts with empathy, kindness, and compassion. You have to come from the heart, which is human, and let them know you are there to have a heavy conversation, but it's because you care and you want to help. That is not how we are programmed, Kings, but it's who we are. And we've got to spend more time in that space. Second, as you start to bring empathy, kindness, and compassion, which is an energy, it's a vibe, it's a feel, it's also about nonverbals, right? Let your body down. It's about looking in the eye and asking open-ended questions, not leading them or pointing, not tone or pitch that's condescending or threatening. It's on the positive side, not the dark side, as I call it.
Right.
The positive side, it's trusting, it's respectful, it's building rapport so that you're creating, and I talk about this a lot, the conditions which allow them to feel like you're genuine and actually care.
Yes.
Because when people feel fear or threatened or intimidated or coerced, the human brain shuts down simply to survive. And I know this living in a jail cell at Monaco and life.
Yes.
Right? So our fear-based mentality shuts down our capability to use all of our levels of intelligence. And we go to our lizard brain and we shut down. And here's the pain point. I'm kind of sidetracking, but leading into the example is if human beings do not feel safe, secure, and instead feel threatened, they will lie to either protect themselves or what they believe in. That's humanity. Once people feel safe because you are showing empathy, kindness, and compassion, which takes practice. Second, open-ended questioning with the right tone and pitch and speed. And number 3, active listening, which means you're not only listening to the words, the syllables, but also the definitions behind them, because every generation today defines words differently.
Yes, 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 and yes. That's so
English is no longer a common language. It's acronyms, and it's WTF, LOL, TBD.
And emojis and
emojis. And I'm like, that's not translating.
Right.
And a lot of lost interpretation and assumptions and biases and accusations and expectations light up all the dark side of who we are as humans. And therefore, conflict happens and we wonder why it's not working. So that's the baseline of really the 5 whys. It's got to start from that place. And that takes training, that takes practice and repetition. None of us were really programmed that way. Once you've gone through that, because that is the baseline for the 5 whys, is what evolved through this amazing journey working with transitioning service members, is we started to realize this isn't about just writing a resume and getting an interview. It's so much more than that. And the service members themselves, I practice what I preach before every workshop and every others, which is why the 1-hour workshop became a 1-day workshop, became a 2-day workshop, and then a 5-day certified DOL program. It evolved because of what we did. And this is what we did to create the 5 whys. After every workshop and throughout, I'd say, why? Why is that happening? Why is your tone and pitch so angry? And why are you so nervous? Your body language is tight and they're like, I had no idea. And I said, is it okay if we record you? And they'd say, yes. And I'd record them and they're like, oh, I had no idea.
Yes.
And I'll share you another example that's in the book. About our 5th 4-day workshop, I'm coming around and this one officer comes in, Army, and it's a U in a smaller group. And he comes in and he's got an attitude and he's angry and he's pissed, but it's not us. It's the fact that he's being let go of the military. That was not his plan. 7 deployments back to back to Iraq and Afghanistan. He was exhausted, had lost many of his soldiers via suicide when they returned. Just terrible, terrible stories. And so I'm feeling this and I'm observing this, and he comes in really toxic. And he sits down in our first 30 minutes to the point of the 5 whys, which starts the conversation. So, why are you here? That's how we'd start every workshop. Open-ended question. Oh, because I was told to. Oh, because I'm transitioning out, right? But when we got around to him, he said, I was told I needed to be here. I said, you're the senior officer. And he goes, yeah, but everybody's telling me I'm an A-H. Right?
Yeah.
And he said it, and it scared everybody in the workshop that everybody's nonverbal communication, everybody leaned back. That was an energy burst that he put in there that was toxic, and he meant it. And it was pain, and it was trauma. And I took a breath, and I looked around at everybody else, giving them the, it's okay, empathy, kindness, and compassion. And I leaned towards him. I walked towards him when most people would move away. And I looked down at him because I was standing, but not in a condescending way, a loving, caring way. And I said, no S-H-I-T. I called him on it. And I said, yeah, you are toxic. And everybody started laughing. And it's like it unleashed it. And he started crying.
Yeah.
And the point of that is, Kings, is why number one, we realized is, why are you here? Meaning not just transitioning through the military, but why are you here as a human being? Every human being at some, if not multiple stages throughout our lives, Kings, you've been there, I've been there. You question why we're even here, especially during times of trauma or despair or depression. And you start to question, what's the point? And I mean suicidal ideations and all that kind of stuff. That's human. And once you go there, which is when those service members specifically came into me, because I could see right through them and I wanted to give them all hugs. The why number one, where you started to realize, was just the foundation of asking, why are you here? Let's find your purpose, which is what this workshop started from. And then as we started moving into that, are you even aware that you don't know the answer to that question, which is what we have defined now as why number one, being aware that you have a program, but you are here for a purpose. So let's redefine what that purpose is through transitions that sometimes are very traumatic for every human being in life. And as we started to pursue that, I had been reading, like I always do at night, because I'm a wannabe, educator. And here's the magic. I had read about Toyota and the 5 whys that they came up with in manufacturing, which has been known for years. It's no new concept. And I said, oh my God, what Toyota and the 5 whys defined by Toyota back, I think in the 80s, became was, what's the wrong with the wheel that keeps breaking after we've built the vehicle that is costing us millions of dollars? Well, it's not just the wheel, it's the axle. And once you look at the axle, ask, why is the axle broken? And once you go 5 whys back, it's called root cause analysis. Let's get to the root of the issue.
Yes.
Root cause analysis. So I was reading all of this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is everything I've learned. And it's about channeling the 5 whys, those questions, through humans, not tools.
Yes.
So I built that program, and with the input of every service member, spouse, and family member, and administrator, and staff who I've ever dealt with, they've given me the inputs that I've channeled in this book to share with everybody, that once you start to reflect, are you aware of why you're here and your purpose and your super? Or has everybody shut you down and told you didn't have it, which is not your fault? I'm here to tell you, you've got it, and I see it. Let's figure it out. And then why number 2, which is where the questioning continues, now that you've defined your purpose, so what are you going to do about it? Are you going to acknowledge that you have that and you've known it for a really long time, but sometimes, and you know my LIFE acronym is how
Yes.
I teach the course, life.
Yes.
You got to go
Yes.
back to go forward. And this is sometimes very painful. And once you are aware that there is another option and you just didn't know it or weren't surrounded by the right circle of support and conditions, you need to acknowledge what was holding you back, which is childhood emotional trauma.
Mhm.
Every single one of us has it. And once you are willing to go through that process, whether it's with us, on our team or in these workshops or therapy or counseling, whatever is best for you or through your church, whatever helps you get these stories out of you so that you can talk through what that childhood trauma was that shaped your response instinctively, which now you don't or are finally aware that you can change that response. You then start to accept, which is why number 3, the what's programmed you, which is part of you always, but it's not your fault and it's part of your story, which will hopefully relate and share with others. And
Mm.
once you get through why number 3 and accept it and start to tell your story and realize you're not alone and there are others here to support you and see you for who you are. Number 4 is where you start to take action and you learn more and read more and do more and
Yes.
try more and get out of the comfort zone and do all these things. And then you start to identify and refine your super intelligence and expand your levels of intelligence, social quotient, emotional quotient, IQ, all of it. The journey is up to you. And the goal is by stage 5 whys, you start to realize who you're supposed to be and living it every day. Self-actualization came from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you're
Mhm.
no longer at just level of being safe, like we talked about, but you are now educated and learning, and you are loving who you are from the inside out. And once you realize the only love you need is unconditional love of self first, you can love others at a whole different level and share with them what you've learned to make the world a better place. That's the
Wow.
5 whys.
And y'all heard it. Y'all heard. I don't know if she said it anywhere else, but hey, if you sitting on the stoop right now, you're getting the scoop on the 5 whys of SI right here first, right? Because this book is more than leadership in the age of AI, right? I call it, the main topic is rebooting the human
Yes.
intelligence.
Mhm.
That's what the main topic is, rebooting the human intelligence. Because Meegan and I, we have a lot in common. We both love serving, whether it be other humans. We love serving. You know what I'm saying? We love serving. We both have daughters that are around the same age. I'm about to get to this question. Here's one of the school questions, Meegan. Right? So, eventually you got to be a grandma, right? When history,
Someday.
yeah, right. I'm calling it, right? So when her story looks back at the AI revolution. And this book is in the beginning stages of the AI revolution. What
Yes.
do you hope people will say humanity got right?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
Hey, this way it comes when you sitting on the stool. You got to get the
Awesome.
look. Yeah, yeah.
It's
What's the scoop on
awesome.
that? Yes.
Yeah, so in the future, and I'll start with this. I have a beautiful 16-year-old daughter who is my pride and joy, and I had her at the age of 40. She's my miracle. I knew I wanted to be a mom when I was 5 and I had 2 younger sisters. I just had to wait 35 years to find the right daddy. The point is having her and this journey of human intelligence that I hope to really push to the forefront for
Mm,
humanity and her generation and the generations behind her is
yes.
really, everybody knows that planet Earth someday will no longer be here. There are those who might know more about that detail than me, but the point is we have no idea what the future brings, and that the
Mm,
reality is at some point humanity needs to leave planet Earth to survive. As AI, I believe, is going to help with those capabilities,
Mm.
our children and their children's generations are going to have to become AI experts because this might not be a world we can live in the way we currently do. Either
Mm.
global warming, either meteors, or who knows, or even grid shutdowns. We don't know. Okay. They're going to need to adapt, and they're going to have AI to do that. However,
Mm.
if AI is not an option because the grid has gone down and because there is no electricity, and I know
Mm.
there are backup systems to some degree, but powers beyond our control, like a COVID, that
Right.
happens to shut everything down, I have raised a human being that is absolutely aware and coherent of HI and situation awareness and human beings and communication, even though most of her generation doesn't know how to talk. It's about we have to continue the human element and how we
Mm.
evolve so that we can stay connected and conversing, not communicating, conversing to keep humanity alive. I want to do it for
Mm.
them, and most importantly, for everyone that currently lives. So it's a deep passion. It is a big, hard, unknown, Kings, but we can't go back. AI is here, and I believe it's here for a reason. The question is, can we keep it in check and allow human intelligence to truly be the forefront of what AI becomes? Because without that, I do believe in my soul we will have a world run by machines.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I know this. So this is going to be out there in the inner world, right? Like this conversation is going to be
Yep.
on all the platforms, the YouTube, Spotify, everything, Apple, all this stuff. To when 10, like you said, when our daughters have kids, we're grandparents, right? They're gonna come across this, but like, man, what they was talking about back in 2026, like, how do they know all this stuff was gonna happen? Like, hey, this is part. Hey, go grab the book, right? Because the book is still gonna be in circulation. I challenge everybody to get the hard copy, right? Because like we talk about the age of AI, right? Everything can be altered and stuff. But if you have a hard copy, this is your copy. This is yours. You own it. I own this. This is mine. I confided it. And I also jotted down 10 things. But before we sign off, I'd like to share. You ever heard my spill? What I like to do, I like to go through the book and I like to align the book with my life journey. And when I
Love it.
read, you already know how my brain operates, right? Like it re-scrambles and puts stuff into where how kings can remember it. So I
Yeah.
have things I've written down I want to share with you and share with the audience and listeners before we sign off of what I got from the book and what I jotted down so kings 5, 10, 15 years from now could go back and look at my notes. You ready? Here it
Awesome.
comes.
Can't wait.
Artificial intelligence should expand human intelligence, not replace it.
Yes.
Curiosity is the operating system of great leadership.
Yes.
The future belongs to leaders who ask better questions. That's what you put in the book. You
Yep.
have to ask better questions. How can you build a machine or thing? You have to learn how to ask better. That's where the 5 whys of SI come into focus, right?
Yep.
Technology changes quickly. Character changes everything. You know my journey why I came because I shared with you intimately of my journey. And in that short time span, look how fast technology changed. Because we used to have people used to send us the resumes and we used to do it by hand, right? And we used to get frustrated,
Yeah.
like, oh, why they not getting it? And now we have AI to assist and we tailor, but they still have to align with the person that's you see what I'm saying? So it changes rapidly. But one thing that stays the same is the person's character.
That's right.
Empathy scales farther than algorithms. Somebody
100%.
might come across this recording, Meegan, 2 years from now, and it just hit the algorithm when we recorded in 2026. Some might get it soon as it goes live.
Mhm.
But it's all how they look. Here we go, right? It's how they train their machine. And what's their machine? Where I don't even have my machine near me, but it's the phone, right? Like how you train your
Yeah.
machine, right? You know, I don't even know where it's at, right? How you train your machine is when that algorithm gonna kick in, right?
Exactly.
The greatest competitive advantage is still trust. Because you shared that in your book. Once humans trust humans, you could get a lot done. That trust, that first thing you have to build on, that cornerstone, that foundation.
Yep.
And we had a lot of conversations like trust, build trust. You're gonna know, and just like an interrogation, right? You have to build that trust, right? That's why you sit down and you had that communication back and forth when you're speaking to somebody, right? To build that trust to where they could feel comfortable and you said it, safe and secure to what? Open up and not
That's
hold
right.
in all that anger that and that's where it comes down to the 5 whys, right? Because I've seen it with my own eyes in person, live, when you was drilling and getting to the core of a young veteran frustrated about transitioning to technology and they was not getting it, but then we found out the reason why. It got all the way down to the 5th why, and he's like, but you know what they're doing now? Meegan, I don't know if you know, this
No.
young man has relocated to California, has received over 20 certifications in technology, has achieved the CISSP, which is high level certification, has started his own company, is reaching back out to help other veterans, all from our conversation from started from the 5 whys of SI. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it's bigger than us.
Oh, that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. It's not about us. It's about us sharing what we've learned and learning through them, which is the yin and the yang, and watching this play out as he realizes in his own capabilities that the only thing holding him back was him.
And I'm
That is
so,
worth millions, Kings. That is, thank you for sharing because that is gold
proud
to
of him.
me. He
I'm
just needed
so proud of
permission
him.
and acknowledgement that I see you, I hear you. How can I help? What a concept. What a concept. And then
I'm
all of a
so
sudden,
proud of
when they
him.
know it's genuine and true, and you ask those open-ended questions and walk through it and don't feel threatened by it, but go towards it, it's never as bad as you think. You always break through, and once you break through that fear, it's gone. And number 3, Kings, you start to level up. My daddy taught me that in 1st grade. Once you confront what you fear, which is usually human, and with kindness, empathy, compassion, open-ended question, and active listening, I addressed my bully and I said, "Why are you treating me this way?" That was 1st grade. And the bully who had shoved me, who had made me bleed, who has hurt me, who was mean, who was emotionally cruel, stepped back and said, "How dare you ask me that?" And walked away and never bullied me again.
Wow.
We have to confront what we fear, but we have to do it in a non-aggressive, fear-based way. Once we create those conditions, Kings, within ourselves, back to the trust, is it starts with being honest with self first. Because
Yes.
if you're not honest with self and who you truly are and who you truly want to be, you can't be honest with anybody else, which is where trust will never be created. That's a
Wow.
daily journey in life, but it's a
Yeah.
choice we all get to make.
Yes. Wait, Meeg, I still got more to share. I still got more to school. But what I got out from the book,
Please,
I got 4 more. So
bring it
what
out.
else I got out your book, out your masterpieces? Human intelligence begins where artificial intelligence ends. Leadership isn't becoming less human, it's becoming more essential. In this day and age, we need leadership more than ever before because I don't want individuals to only rely on technology and forget about the thinking process after they get the response. Two more. The smartest organizations invest in both AI and, remember? Yes, and that plus, that plural. AI and people have to invest in both. One, my mind, King's belief, one cannot live without the other in this day and age moving forward. You need two.
Yes.
And the last one I have written down that I got from your book after reading it is our humanity is not our limitation. It's our greatest innovation. Being human. Rebooting the human intelligence. Leadership in the age of AI.
I'm going to compliment what I forgot to finish, and what you had asked is that image on the book. It's very important. So that image, we did not know what we were looking for until we threw it out to an amazing company, and I'll give them creds, 99 Designs, who, once you describe the essence of this book and what you're ideally looking for and your target audience, which I'll talk about, they then send it out into the world of things, and we had 200 designs to choose from.
Wow.
And then when I took those 200 designs, I picked my top 10, focused on my target audience, which a year ago still remains the same. And that is the current demographic of race, gender, and age running corporate and government America. That is the demographic that I targeted specifically because they are the ones in power. They are the ones that have the money and are the decision makers that if they see this problem in our current high-level workforce, the option is in front of them to improve it as their legacy. The picture came because I sent it out to all of my amazing military and corporate friends who have been in all my workshops, and I said, what are your favorites? And this image was the winner for that demographic because it's not just the people in suits. It's about recognizing we have an opportunity that with care and hopefully sincerity to create the ideal partnership between AI and HI, should we choose to do it. That is what won the competition, and the colors and the schemes spoke to that demographic, and I said, go for it, because at the end of the day, Kings, it's not about me. I would have picked something totally different.
Right.
But when you think about, and those are for you transitioning service members or current members, you got to be an entrepreneur. Every single one of you's got it in it. That's a whole nother podcast. But learning how to brand and target and sell, I am still learning. And my point at the end of the day, Kings, is you are who you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself, and I mean from your spouse to your kids to your family to your corporate to your professional to your personal lives, if anyone in those circles around you, close or layered, don't bring the best out of you, you have a choice to change it. I've changed my circles many times throughout my life. And the people that I keep in my circle are the people that see me for who I am, and I see them. And that's Kings. And hopefully I see you. So you are who you surround yourself with. And who do you want to be? And most importantly, back to what King said earlier, what do you want to leave for planet Earth and humanity behind?
Thank you, man. I can't, it's plenty more. I'm gonna give him a shout out right here to Robert Bodiger. There's plenty more Rob B's.
Robert's awesome. Love him.
I said Rob B is plenty more Rob B's out there because I can't wait to have him on the show because his journey is something
So
for him to tell. But that's the individual I talked about has over 18 to 20 certifications, and he's doing great things. But he started out as a military, army, infantry, and now he's high up there in the IT world by
Oh,
implementing part of the 5 Whys of SI. So this book,
I remember our conversations.
yes,
He's a
yes,
gem. I'm so proud of him.
yes. So this is, y'all, I'm putting my stamp on, because I know, like, I have history of me. I seen this book in action and stuff that's in these pages, because I actually know some of these situations. And yes, it's definitely true. So Mika, how can they get a copy of this book? Where can they go? How can they reach out to you? And how can they increase their human intelligence and reboot it? Right? You might have to, reboot, because sometimes we leave the computer on. Like, I'm guilty for that, right? I leave the computer on and I forget to restart sometime for it to
Yep,
give the updates, right? Because so I'm probably so far back in updates, I need to do a reboot or restart. So how can they reach out? How can they get a copy? And how can they connect?
absolutely. So what's so great is, and I won't go into the details, but I went through a publisher, so it is available worldwide. You can Google it. Type in leadership in the age of AI, rebooting human intelligence, Meegan Kriley-Mackay, or even part of those words. And absolutely, we're on Amazon, but we're on Thrift Books. We're on Barnes and Noble. You name it. We're on almost every other platform out there. And there's some discounts depending upon the providers. So go out there. You can also go to my website, meeganmackay.com, real easy. And there is a book page because we got a lot more books coming. This is just the first. Now I've become a writer. I'm learning and becoming better at that skill. So please go out, read the book, buy the book, share the book. And if you don't want to spend and get a hard copy and you're more tech savvy, it's on Kindle. And drum roll, by January, it will be an audiobook. So all options will be, hopefully prevailing in the year ahead.
Awesome, Megan. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for sticking by, for sitting on the stoop, for jotting down some information, for sending me some insights and some things to ask me, because I told them that you was coming on the show. And they're like, "What? Megan's coming on? Hey man, ask her this." Dude, I said, "Man, this is perfect." So once again, thank you on behalf of the listeners, of the audience, veterans, veteran supporters, and people that's just day-to-day life living, that's still trying to figure it out. Because leadership is not just about the military community, it's about the human community, right? So it's don't discount yourself in that, right? If you are a leader, Mika said everybody is a leader. Even if you're leading yourself, you are a leader. And this is the age of AI. So let's go ahead and hit that reboot, hit that restart, and let's get programmed or reprogrammed to keep moving forward and put that one step in front of the other. So remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that vet SOS Lifeline. We're here to help. Thank you for come sitting on the stoop to give the scoop of your book, Megan. I really appreciate it. And from the bottom of
You're
my
welcome.
heart to all our listeners and audience, until next time, everybody, take care. Peace.